Yes, yes, Sir Hairless here. Creep, Radiohead. Amazing song, iconic song, weirdly wonderful lyrics. Got sued by the Hollies for musical similarities to their song, but that's a story for another day. Weirdly, I've only done one other Creep video on my channel so far. That was Postmodern Jukebox, very cool arrangement. I've received a fair number of comments for various other covers of Creep. So yeah, it's good to finally get round to it again. And who better for that than VoicePlay? This is an Ellie arrangement and the special guest is Anthony Gargiula. We have seen him a couple of times on the channel already, including in my most recent video, which was slightly different. I did 5 VoicePlay minis in one video. So if you haven't seen that, make sure to check it out. 40 minutes of VoicePlay fun. Anyway, back to Creep. I've just been listening to the original. I know the song really, really well, so I just listened to it once. 1.3 billion views. The comments are making me laugh. I'll just read out a few of them. This song makes my depression have a depression. The perfect Valentine's Day song for single people. My therapist started charging double after I mentioned this was my favorite song. Oh, they tickled me. Anyway, let's see what VoicePlay do with this one.
Here before, couldn't look you in the eye. You're just like an angel. Your skin makes me cry. You float like a feather in a beautiful world. I wish I was special. You're so very special. But I'm a creep. I'm a weirdo.
I'm getting shivers.
What the hell am I doing here? I don't belong here.
I don't care if it hurts.
Oh, that's interesting. With Lane, what he did there, and then this harmony that comes in, which it's not harmony, is it? It's just unison. And of course, the move to Jeff for his solo and his voice is so unique in terms of his texture timbre, just a completely different type of sound all round. Wow, it's a moving one. I was getting shivers. I don't know if you could see it or not, but my arms, well, you probably couldn't see, could you? But my arms were tingling away just then. It's a deep song anyway. It's an emotional song anyway. So to take it on and arrange it in a way where you have enough conviction that you'll be doing it justice, that always sounds like a bit of a tall ask, but you know, it's VoicePlay. It's what they do. We're 1 minute in and I love this arrangement already. So I'm very keen to see what happens when we approach the later parts, the chorus, which could be massive. We know Anthony Gargiula can go straight up there. So yeah, before carrying on, let's just go over some of what we've heard so far. We obviously start off. That's quite mystical. That's just not what you would expect at all, but it's a very, very VoicePlay. I'm sure you know what I mean by that. So that is the same chord twice, but they've just inverted it essentially. So the notes used are the same, but they're just rearranged. To me, it gives an effect almost like an implosion. Then we get Caesar. The mirror. In the description, it says the mirror was provided by Caesar, so we now know that. I can't be the only one looking at this little blue circle here as well, can I? Anyway, it all adds to the emotion of everything. Black room, white mirror light, complete contrast. And the shot, you know, I didn't study cinema or anything, but I'm sure there's a lot of analysis that we can do on these shots where someone is shown looking at themselves in a mirror, introspection, all that kind of thing. And if we look at the lyrics of this song, so yeah, it's really moving and quite different to pretty much everything I've seen VoicePlay do otherwise. So but just in that regard alone, there's a big contrast here as well.
When you were here before.
So simple. The bass line is very iconic in this song. You know, that pattern. Etc. It's got a bounce to it. Jeff doesn't do that. Jeff is just singing the notes. And the notes that Jeff is singing, they're just the chords that we get. Funny as well for this song, I'm a creep, I'm a weirdo. Every chord is major, happy. Except for the last one where they repeat the same chord, but it's only that one note that changes. Major to minor, sad. Caesar is lovely with it. A lot of air coming through in that voice of his. He's got quite a slow vibrato when he chooses to, which I really like.
Your skin makes me cry. You float like a feather.
Lovely dissonant chord, and then we get everyone else coming in the background. Of course, we don't see them as well, which I like. It's like these voices coming out from where. And this note that we hear in the background, doo,
I wish I was special.
in harmony with another note, but it sounds weird, not in a bad way. It's almost like a, I don't know what I'm trying to do here actually, but
I wish I was.
It almost sounds like it has a metallic texture. Not so smooth, almost not even human. Sorry, I said I'd be whizzing through, but with their arrangements, I just always want to talk about everything. I need to try and stop. But then Anthony comes in.
But I'm a creep. I'm a
Backing harmony, very similar idea to how we opened up.
What the hell am I doing here?
Then we hear, really emphasizing the major chord, and then what we would get if we did it again the next time. But we don't. Instead, they add a chord with some slight dissonance in there.
I don't belong here.
It's this note, turning it into a minor 7, but down the octave. And then Lane comes in with that percussion into Jeff's solo, which is where we paused. Let's carry on.
I don't care if it hurts. I wanna have control. I want a perfect body. I want a perfect soul.
I want you to notice, but I'm not around. You're so very special. You're so special and special. But I'm a creep.
Ah, the sound, it's growing. It's already huge. It's growing. I can tell it's going to grow some more. Not just from Ellie, go on, Ellie, but from everyone else as well. And that run we had from Anthony beforehand. I mean, what a voice. Yeah, I'm going to have to risk a pause now just because I know how the chorus goes. Growing and going. I mean, VoicePlay could change it around, but with this trajectory, it's a risk that I'm going to have to take. I won't want to pause any later on, and then we'll probably get to the end of the song and I would have forgotten everything from now. So again, let me just try and actually quickly go over a few things that we just heard, and then we will carry on.
I don't care if it hurts. I wanna have.
That idea I pointed out before, we're getting now, and then they do their first real harmonic change. We know that VoicePlay are no strangers to changing around the harmony quite blatantly, you know, just completely replacing a chord occasionally.
Have control.
There, that we can all hear that. We'd expect it to go, but no. So that makes you go, ooh, and then the next phrase.
I want a perfect body. I want a perfect soul.
Quite crazy. I remember my exact thoughts hearing that. This is quite erratic. That kind of made me wonder what direction they were going to take with the arrangement. Are they going to move away from the juicy harmony like we heard before and become more rhythmic like this is? Well, the answer is a bit of both. They're not really changing the harmony too much. They're sticking with the original harmonic structure, so the chords and the order in which they come, but the rhythms here are hugely important as well, right? Round, 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 round. We have our very VoicePlay-esque melody, and then the other parts come in with like a repeat of it, like a call and response. So we're still getting rich harmony, but also the rhythms now are starting to come through as well. So in my head, the structure so far has been, we started off very simple, mostly about the harmony. Then in Jeff's verse, it was kind of the rhythms, and then with Lane coming in, and now it's a combination of the two. Yeah, unreal. Unreal voice he has. Into the chorus we go. We've already seen Ellie belting it. I'm curious, actually. Will it be Ellie or Anthony or Jeff? I just watched some minis, like I said in the introduction, and Jeff was going on a mad one in one of them. Who knows? Who knows? Maybe Caesar.
Whatever makes you happy.
Whatever makes you happy, that made me happy. That chorus, so cool. So cool. I've got tingles in my arms again. Starting off with Ellie belting chest voice. And then we have Anthony, I suspect, the same note that Ellie was just belting, but now singing in falsetto. And we have Caesar belting underneath in harmony, but in his chest voice, no vibrato, complete straight tone, which just really enhances the effect of a large sound, I think, especially when multiple people are singing with a straight tone. Jeff has now implemented that bouncy bass line we spoke about earlier. And the VoicePlay-ism I was speaking about that I seem to mention in every video these days, where someone has the melody and then the other parts come in like a call and response. We've seen them a number of times do this, where they kind of manipulate the words we're hearing. The example here is weirdo is the word. Weirdo, what the hell am I doing here? Two separate phrases. But here, if we listen to like Caesar, for example, he goes weird, oh, what the hell am I doing here? So it's like weird, oh, what the hell? So that's cool. Then Ellie, I mean, we're just going to listen again because... Syncopations, what the hell am I doing here? Because Ellie had gone so high, and just how the song naturally is, where it just goes up and up and up, I was half expecting someone to start up there and then go up. Obviously that's absurd because that's pretty much as high as a chorister would be expected to sing. But no, we come back down the octave, and then again, this is where the rhythms are so important, the layering. Jeff's bass line has evolved a little bit. It's not just down the octave, of course. No, he's doing other notes. He's walking around a bit more. That kind of idea. We're getting a bit of chromaticism in there now. And when they choose to have the momentary breaks from either the percussion or from the bass or a bit of everything like we got there in between lines. Huge sound layering, of course, being used here. Just a lot we're hearing. And having additional voices obviously helps with a huge sound like we get here. Let's just deconstruct that chord. There are probably more, but I'll just pick out the 5 more obvious voices that we're hearing. And this is not including Lane, so we have 4 singers, 5 voices. Anthony, Ellie, but there's an additional line doubling Ellie. But in a falsetto, Ellie singing in a blended voice. Then we have Jeff on the bass, and then we have a nice part in the middle, which, when we combine them all together, ooh, yeah, that's the suspension. And then in harmony with that constant note, there's also just staying there, and then when you put them all together. you know, more dissonance that then resolves, etc. So yeah, a lot of voices in there, but the sound is really, really massive. It's so, so cool. Anthony Gargiulo is just the perfect choice for this. And the video is great as well. The changing color lights, them sitting on the chairs. I like the impact of this as well. A contrast to the start when everything was kind of based around singularity or individualism, one at a time, just a mirror and a person. But now, no, they're all together, camaraderie and this huge, huge sound. And there, Caesar's tone, his sound, he's got quite a distinct voice, really coming through there in the upper chest voice. Supported above by another harmony part in head voice. So when you put them together. So we're noticing in this arrangement a lot of the choices when it comes to the chords and the harmony, because the song only has 4 chords, just repeated over and over and over and over and over. There's not that much variety, and VoicePlay are choosing to stick to that structure. So it seems a lot of the choices they're making with the harmony, when you have multiple vocal parts, is 1 or 2 of them will have a sustained note, and then the other one will sing and then move. And that's great because it causes dissonance and tension, and then it resolves, releasing the tension, suspensions causing suspense, you know, all of these kind of things.
Whatever makes you happy, whatever you want, you're so very special. Oh, I wish I was special, but I'm a creep, I'm a widow. What the hell am I doing here? I don't belong here, I don't belong here.
Really nice. I really like their decision to end on just a standard root chord. Oop. With Jeff right down there on the bottom G, a G1, you know, really, really low, that just vibrates everything. And at the ending, we do have resolution. There's no suspensions there. It's not a funky chord. It's standard, pure. The build up to the ending as well.
But I'm a creep.
That is our supertonic note. So G is our chord. So there's 1 and it's there. So very useful and recognizable chord when it comes to a cappella arrangements.
I'm a widow.
Everyone humming as well, so there's still enough harmonic substance, but the focus is on Caesar. Just as we opened, you know, he has the words, he has the lyrics, changing from a closed sound to a more open.
What the hell am I doing here? I don't belong here.
Lovely line, doing a scale up amidst the chords there. And I'm always a sucker for endings that are like this, you know, there's no beat, it's all about the harmony. Very rich harmony, it's not all these crazy funky chords. And this is a song that I think it's best maybe not to turn it into all these funky chords, otherwise the message of the song kind of could be eroded a little bit. VoicePlay have had the same thought process clearly. Overall, keep the harmony the same, and then you use the assets, their voices, to really just express everything else that needs to be expressed. I think Anthony was a really, really good choice of special guest for this one. I love how they started and ended with Caesar as well. He had the perfect voice for it with that air and that rich, rich vibrato. The video too, really good. This black setting, we don't get anything else. We're transitioning.
Oh, I wish I was special.
You don't know if you're going to get the same person again or someone else. Caesar transitions from real Caesar to mirror Caesar. Jeff transitions to Lane, you know, so it's good. It's keeping us on our toes. And then the ending. Really cool image, silhouettes, as though your individuality has been removed. You know, you're no longer a face, you're just a shape. Really, really cool. Hey, look, I love the song Creep, and I love what VoicePlay did with that there. Really, really nice. Well, let's leave that one there. Really, really enjoyable. I think I forgot to say in the introduction, actually, that this was a Patreon request. So thank you to Juliana for this. And thank you for watching, especially if you made it this far. Would really appreciate a like on the video. Comment down below your thoughts on this. Did they do the original song justice? I think they certainly did. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next one. Yes, so Hairless here. Today we have another Patreon request for VoicePlay, and this should be an entertaining one. I'm told it's entertaining. It's The Devil Went Down to Georgia, originally by the Charlie Daniels Band. I did not know this song or the band. I have actually done a video on that one. I've been told it's very entertaining, so I thought let's check it out, do a video on it. So I would definitely recommend checking out my video on it. I talk about, well, the usual stuff, the musical side of things, the harmonies, the rhythms, etc. I don't know how similar to the original VoicePlay are going to make this their VoicePlay, so maybe not. But the original song is, you know, it's not your typical song for various reasons. I don't want to spoil anything. So yeah, I'm excited to see what they do with this one. The special guest today is J-Nun. We are very familiar with him by now. So without further ado, let's get straight into it.
Georgia, he was looking for a soul to steal. He was in a bind, cause he was way behind and he was willing to make a deal. When he came across this young man's on a fiddle and playing it hot, and the devil jumped up on a hickory stump and said, well, let me tell you what, I guess you didn't know it, but I'm a fiddle player too. And if you'd care to take a dare, I'll make a bet with you. Now you're playing pretty good fiddle, boy, but give the devil his due. I bet a fiddle of gold against your soul, cause I think I'm better than you. Well, my name's Johnny, and it might be a sin, but I'll take your bet and you're gonna regret, cause I'm the best that's ever been.
Johnny, you're rising up your bow and play your fiddle hard, cause hell's broke loose in Georgia and the devil deals the cards. And if you win, you get the shiny fiddle made of gold, but if you lose, the devil gets your soul.
Wow, I was almost getting confused. I don't know how to explain it. It feels like we've heard so much more than we have. As you know, with my videos, I kind of need to stop and pause, otherwise I'll just forget everything that's happened if I try and talk about it all at the end. And I thought that I'd been so engrossed by it all that I'd kind of listened to 2.5 minutes or so, but no, we're, 1 minute and 18 seconds in. The production value on this is insane. It's insane. The special effects, the makeup, the set. This song is a story. You know, if you haven't seen the original song, go and check it out, Charlie Daniels Band, or my reaction to the original song. But it's mostly speaking, you know, it's a story being told. VoicePlay being the theatre kids of a cappella, the best group to do this for sure. Yeah, I really like what they've done with it. I'm not going to go into the special effects, but I just want to give my appreciation for them. I can only understand how much time and effort they would have taken. Also, the devil character, in my reaction to the original, I did turn myself into the devil temporarily, almost like the devil's temptation, but gave myself some hair. In this case, the devil doesn't have any hair, which is more in line with the devil in the song Tribute by Jack Black. I speak about that in the reaction to the original video. So yeah, really fun. Being another member of the Hairless clan, I think we would assume of all the VoicePlay people that this would be Ellie, but it's not. And I'm not going to try and guess who this is, because with that amount of makeup, I could probably offend quite a few people. All right, well, let me just go over a few things to do with the music so far. The opening. I love how we get the percussion immediately. Then the fiddle, so it's really cool to see Lane playing the fiddle in this one. I did see this actually in my first ever VoicePlay reaction, that was Nothing Else Matters. But the fiddle in the original song is a huge, huge part of it, so I like that they have decided to keep that in rather than going for pure a cappella. For context, this is how the original starts. So VoicePlay is sticking quite true to everything. They do have vocal harmonies in there though, to just fill out the harmonic underpinning of everything. And then the offbeats, do, 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 do. Offbeats in the original song anyway are really important. In my video on the original, I spent a section talking about the rhythms, how the drum is all we hear at one point underneath the speaking. And instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, the drum is being played on 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. VoicePlay are immediately honouring this. Let's have a listen again to the backing voices there. Lane keeps in this interesting violin scale. I won't bore you too much with the music theory. In the original, they do pretty much the same thing. Lane has changed one note. So our key is D minor, just like the original song. A D minor harmonic scale. We have these two black notes here. In the original, they remove them, so it's just the white notes, which is called the Dorian mode. Lane is keeping in one of the black notes. So it's kind of like a hybrid of the two. Very small difference, but I actually think this playing around with the harmony is an important part of the song, which I speak about in the original video. So that's why I'm kind of listening out for it. But any normal or sane person, I don't think would really care about that. The effects are so cool. So cool.
The devil went down to Georgia. He was looking.
So here we have Jeff speaking. VoicePlay have decided to completely get rid of any sort of harmony from the background. In the original, we at least get a chord before the speaking starts. And then the speaking starts, but VoicePlay, no, they don't even give us that. This is as bare bones, as stripped of the music as it can possibly be.
Looking for a soul to steal. He was in a bind, because he was...
Even the percussion in the background, it's like body percussion. Dum, click, boom, you know, really slow.
I'm playing it hot, and the devil jumped up on a hickory stone and said, well, let me...
Again, playing around with the harmony there in that scale up, it doesn't really fit into our usual harmonic standards.
And the devil jumped up on a hickory stone and said, well, let me tell you what, I guess you didn't know it.
I find it funny how the devil is Jeff's voice, and then our protagonist here, good old Johnny the fiddler, also happens to sound just like Jeff.
The best it's ever been.
Johnny, you'll rosin up your bow and play your fiddle hard.
I like how they've done the story as well, using the other people as kind of these background characters to enhance the story. A little bit of harmony in there as well, which you do get in the original song, but VoicePlay obviously have the potential to do even more because in the original there were just two singers.
Georgia and the devil deals the cards. And if you win, you get the shiny fiddle made of.
And I love those little violin lines that Lane's doing. Bing, 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 bing. Again, really subtle, but it adds a lot of character to the song. Yeah, really cool so far, so visually stimulating as well. The purpose of this song, I think, it's to tell the story. You know, I can talk about the music, but ultimately it's a telling of a story. VoicePlay, other pros at that. Let's find out what happens next.
The devil opened up his case and he said, I'll start this show. And fire flew from his fingertips as he risened up his bow. Then he pulled his bow across the strings and it made an evil hiss. And then a band of demons joined in and it sounded something like this. Finished, Johnny said, well, you're pretty good, old son, but just sit down in that chair right there. Let me show you how it's done.
Fire in the mountain, run, boys, run.
Ooh. Okay, this section now is a slightly harmonically altered section, and through voices, we can really hear it a lot more or better than instruments.
How it's done.
Fire in the mountain, run, boys, run.
We've switched from minor to major, and that major third is now the voice that we can hear on the top. But if we were to listen to this same moment in the original, just by not having that major third note on the top, really, well, it feels less major, less happy, a bit less of a change compared to what we've been hearing before. Yeah, there are a few really cool things in there that I would like to go over for sure. There was one moment from before we paused that I didn't talk about for time reasons, so I will do that quickly now. This song, and it's not as obvious in VoicePlay's version because they're really upping the musicality of everything, but in the original, a lot of the song there is not really that much music. There's not that much harmony. It's a lot of speaking. One of the most musical parts is when we have this falling section. So it's this falling down with the accompanying chords. VoicePlay do this. They don't change the falling part or the chords. It's still very clear, but they do add in something. Or is it adding in or twisting it? I'm not really sure, but let's have a listen.
If you lose, the devil gets your soul.
So I think that's Ellie there on the top. On top of the falling. So he is rhythmically elongating that falling by 2, so he only does half as much and causes dissonance, but then still resolves on the final chord just because of how it works. VoicePlay, whom I have often referred to as the masters of rhythms, they're no strangers to rhythmic elongations or rhythmic diminution, manipulating the lengths of the notes so they'll either be like twice as long or twice as short. So when I'm hearing Ellie do that, I'm thinking, oh, this lovely falling bit is now going to be twice as long. But no, it's the same length. It's only Ellie who's doing it twice as long.
The devil gets your soul.
And it creates this almost lagging effect. My brain is almost not comprehending exactly what's happening, and then they resolve into this. You know, with Jeff way down there, then the offbeats come in, umpa, laying on the fiddle. Yeah, really nice touch, well constructed. I, of course, love their inclusion of In the Hall of the Mountain King when the band of demons joins in.
Demons joined in and it sounded something like this.
A nice little homage to the other video they did. Thinking about it, this look here of the devil could maybe be slightly inspired by Caesar's character in that. Or maybe Ellie's, a mix of the two. So aside from that just being a bit of a fun inclusion, it actually works really well with the music. One of my favourite parts of the original song, at this moment, things turn funky. And then, a few seconds later, my man with a broken arm using his right hand for that walking bass. Boom, 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 boom. Super, super cool. I love it. The rhythms are obviously chat, 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 chat. That's part of this walking bass. Think about In the Hall of the Mountain King. How does that start? And now in The Devil Went Down to Georgia, how does this bass line start? The same way. And then it just goes on to do something a little bit different. So VoicePlay have recognized this melodic connection, the melody of a nice bit of classical music, a funky bass line in The Devil Went Down to Georgia from the late 70s, and they've put them together. It's so, so smooth. Really, really cool. The words they're saying in the background almost sounds like scat, unless you really focus on it. Again, it just gives it a really funky feel to everything. Yeah, I love what they've done with it. And those lines, ooh-da-doo, rising up and then climaxing. With that weird scale, the harmony's getting a little bit strange. Obviously now the fiddle is where the real weirdness comes in, but it's the same in the original song. Made all that little bit weirder with that face. Blimey. Oh, there's a lot going on in this one, isn't there? It's really tough to try and focus on the music when we've got such good storytelling happening. I'll try and do my best. Let's carry on. I believe Johnny just sat the devil down and is about to give him a little fiddling. That did not come out right at all.
Right there, let me show you how it's done.
Fire in the mountain, run, boys, run. The devil's in the house of the rising sun. The chicken in the bread pan picking out dough. Granny does your dog bite, no child, no.
Because he knew that he'd been beat, and he laid that golden fiddle on the ground at Johnny's feet. And Johnny said, well, devil, just come on back if you ever want to try again. I done told you once, you son of a bitch, I'm the best it's ever been.
He played fire in the mountain, run, boys, run. The devil's in the house of the rising sun. The chicken in the bread pan picking out dough. Granny, will your dog bite, no child, no. Child, no.
VoicePlay won, The Devil none. That was a fun one. That was just a really fun one. I love how they've charmed the devil and he's resisting the temptation to dance. Not surprising though when you've got Jaina dancing like that, and Caesar dancing like that. It must have been quite tough for VoicePlay in this one to determine how much extra they want to put in terms of the music. The original song, it's about telling the story. You have your musical sections like the fiddle battles, and then the storytelling, speaking. I think they have, and this is no surprise really, somehow just found the perfect mix of everything. The battle is ended. VoicePlay have won.
At Johnny's feet, Johnny said, "Well, devil, just come on back."
In the original, there is no music here in the background, if I recall.
Ground at Johnny's feet. Johnny said, "Devil, just come on back if you ever want to try."
Yeah, you know, that's what we're hearing. So VoicePlay, by just adding in these quite fluid chords in the harmony in the background,
If you ever want to try again, I done told you once, you son of a...
they are essentially recreating the story. Well, they're not, but in a musical sense. In my video on the original song, I was saying how the harmony really aids the story, especially in this song more so than others. When the devil is playing, often it's really discordant and everything like that. When Johnny's playing, things are a bit more harmonious, they make a bit more sense. So by adding in harmony that does not exist in the original song, they're creating this new harmonic progression, a new story of chords. I don't know, I just think it's an interesting thing to think about when it comes to a song like this. How do they decide what chords are we going to use? Are we going to use a standard chord progression, a non-standard?
Best it's ever been.
He played Fire in the Mountain.
And then, just as I'm thinking about all that, they go back to the slightly, well, the more major bit. There's that falling motif again, and VoicePlay, what did they say? Was it No Child No?
No child, no.
Subtle change, just adding some words in there, but it really does make a difference. Go down and then back up at the end, big climactic ending, and the devil's confidence, his ego, is on the floor at this point. He's off home to get a hot chocolate, snuggle up in bed and forget about everything that's just happened here. Well, there we go. VoicePlay, the devil went down to Georgia. I need say no more, I believe. Really high production value, perfect for telling the story, which ultimately is the main point of this song. Loved all of the musical decisions, especially Lane keeping the fiddle in there. Not the easiest fiddle part to play, I'm sure, so kudos to him. At least there's video evidence of him beating the devil at the fiddle. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts on this one down below. What was your favorite part? If you don't want to write any words, then today's emoji will of course be the devil emoji. Let's see some devils down there. Thank you again, and I'll see you in the next one.